Welcome to this week's Street Talk, everybody. We have got 6 stories to talk about this week, and we are going to be starting off with Keller and Cellar, which is, do you like that one? Gemma's nodding her head, she likes that one, everybody. This is going to be our Kelly Neelan story of the week. Up next, we're going to be talking about the Thai bride story and what's been going on between those two and Phil, who has he's grown a pair a bit by the end of this week, hasn't he? He's not being not just lying back and taking it anymore. The Audrey story. I can't remember, struggling with storyline idea titles for this week. I've called it Last Chance Salon because this was David's last chance maybe of getting Audrey on his side. Getting any reaction from you with these, Gemma?
They're all great.
All great, says Gemma. Thank you. Last Chance Salon. We have then got some of the Wendy House, which doesn't match at all. Tully and the Bully seems to be over as of the end of this week. And all the stuff going on at Speed Dial, which they kind of very, very slowly drip feeding to us over the course of the last month or so with Stu and his daughter. And it's really not enough to keep me engaged for long enough. So I've just called this, for the moment, incredibly slow, dragged out dial. Because to say this is anything speedy is like a complete misnomer. Gemma, you said that you would like to do Keller and Cellar first, so I'm going to pass over to you to say what's been going on here.
Right, Monday, Kelly's missing, and it takes them a whole weekend to realise.
No weekends in Weatherfield.
Maria discovers that Kelly's not in her room, and Gary's like, oh, she must have stopped out with Ardy somewhere. So laissez-faire.
I thought the very first scene of this week was unusual way to start. Maria doing a headstand in the middle of the lounge. I want to know how that came about. Was Samia just kind of doing it in the green room or something one day, and then the writer's like, oh, well, we'll use that talent.
She was doing yoga.
Yeah, I know, but she was still impressive stuff. Was she trying to get herself an exercise DVD or something? Maybe. Well, we know that Gary is also quite good at the Keep Fit art. What was he doing? Jazzercise or something a few months ago. So Gary and Maria's Keep Fit is shells by you this Christmas or something.
Something like that. So, meanwhile, Kelly is in her murder hut.
Kelly's in her celly, isn't she?
She is getting a sandwich chucked at her. Luckily, it was wrapped. Otherwise, the lettuce would have gone everywhere and it would have been gross. She's begging for her freedom, and they don't care.
I spent a lot of the note time this week not really knowing what the guys were called who were locking her up. So I have to excuse me, Gemma, that there was a lot of mention of a character called Blokey in my notes here, and that's the main one, the scary one, and he's actually called Kieran. I found out as after Wednesday's episode. I thought I better actually have a look at the credits and find out what these guys are called. I think it was quite rude for them not to introduce themselves by name. I know. My name is Kieran. I'll be your captor for this week.
Yeah.
But it just made it very difficult for me.
Should have done that, shouldn't they?
And the other one was called Ross, the kind of more round-faced guy. But I don't know. They're going to be kind of fairly interchangeable throughout this, I reckon.
Gary goes over to the shop to see what Ardy has to say, and he's very concerned to hear that Kelly stood Ardy up yesterday, and so she wasn't at his house last night.
Oh yeah, he was like, did Kelly stay with you last night?
And Ardy tells him about what happened with her giving money away, and Gary then wants to know exactly who she's been giving the money back to. Who would have thought this could have gone wrong? Maria meets up with Gary in the flat, and he tells her what he's found out and says he's going to head over to the estate, where all those...
Oh, not the estate. It's full of Romans.
Poor people live, and try to find...
The actual working class.
Where the people who don't know what yoga
working
is...
at all.
Yoga is live. So, Kelly's captor comes in to see her, and...
Kieran.
He says... I used to know your dad, Rick, and we had unresolved issues, and I want you to help me resolve them, which is very sinister.
I enjoyed that. I can't remember whether it was this scene or whether it was later on, him saying about he also knew the other Windasses, because he said, did he say he went to school with Uncle Len?
Yeah.
Didn't he? Who was the chabbiest of all Windasses. Yeah, he was a really kind of seedy, dodgy bloke in the early days, when the Windasses were themselves quite a bit chavvier. But he said he went to school with Uncle Len, and he said your mum's a right goer or something as well, which I always find hilarious. Just a little bit more get the boot into Anna Windass.
So, Kieran, says, I'm gonna get you, Kelly, to send a message to Gary, pretending to be yourself, saying that you're fine.
Pretending to be yourself, pretending to be fine. He gets her to write a message, doesn't he? Oh no, he he says, like, what shall I say to Gary to make him think that you're okay? And she's very smart.
You do it.
No, you carry on. No, go back to you.
He makes her unlock her phone and taps away at it, and then Gary gets a message from Kelly saying, "I'm fine, I'm with my friend, can you let Mum know I'm okay?" And he's like... And then I like this, as I remember it, maybe this isn't how it really happened, but Gary and me are like, "But her mother's dead, and I'm sure she knows her mother's dead. In fact, as I recall, she was there when she died."
She's crawling right all over her. That's not something you tend to forget.
Not really, no, not.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Must be a secret coded message. I thought it was smart.
Keenan, Callie.
Keenan and Cal, yeah.
The guy gets...
Oh yeah, Kieran and Cal, that's what we should call this episode. What does he get?
He tells Kelly that he used to be Rick's business partner until he cheated him out of 50 grand and he wants it back. And Kelly's like, "I don't have that much money. He only left me a few grand." And they said, "Well, you need to get that 50k if you want to leave here alive." Gary and Maria are getting a bit worried, but they know now she's got her phone on her. I don't know why they think that she's the one with the phone, and they think they can track her position.
They don't know, do they?
No.
I shouldn't have written that note down. I mean, they've probably explained somehow why they couldn't use the tracking on her phone.
Maybe she's turned it off. If I was a teenage girl and I didn't have my parents were dead, I definitely wouldn't have a tracking.
If I was holding somebody captive, I'd probably get them to turn off location services as well. I'm smart like that.
The guys tell Kelly they're going to get what they're owed, and they lock her in the murder hut and leave. And for some reason, then they leave her phone right in front of her. Through a hole in the window. So she uses her non-branded personal voice assistant.
Yeah, she says, "Kelly's phone Gary," doesn't she?
Yeah.
That would be quite handy if you could change the name of your voice assistant, because some people don't like them called Siri or Alexa. Can't say it too loud.
She's not listening.
She's not listening to me. But yeah, I think this isn't a thing. I mean, we may be wrong, but I don't think there's any assistant like that where you can change the name of it, because that'd be very handy. I don't know. What would you call yours? So I caught you off guard there.
Phone.
I might want to name. Maybe we could call it Cobble.
Yeah, Cobble.
Or Steve Fisher.
That's what it reminded me of, Cobble.
It did. You wrote a tweet about that, didn't you?
Got it.
I think a few people got the reference the Coronation Street's April Fools this year.
That was great.
The whole wall could have been made up of cobbles. That would have been quite a twist, wouldn't it?
If she said, "Hey, Cobble," and then the whole
room
cell
lit
just
up.
glows.
Yeah. How can I help you, Kelly?
"Hi, Kelly. Are you stuck in a murder hut? Don't worry, it's all part of a complaining plot. I'll leave you here.
You won't be bad by Wednesday. It's fine."
Yeah, Cobble wouldn't rescue you because Cobble wants the TV show Coronation Street to get high in the ratings. In fact, Cobble might decide to land on your head to make it even more dramatic. Can you imagine if they had Cobble as a personal assistant on Coronation Street and it just turned into on a murderous rampage, flying through the air?
There is the worry that the AI is going to turn evil. Yeah. Maybe that'd be that. I'd watch it. Maybe if it's an online spin-off, or maybe next year's April Fools. What happened next, Gemma?
Ardy comes around the flat to check if they've heard from Kelly, and Gary says she's texted, so she must be okay, and they're being really shady and not telling Ardy the truth. So he goes and he believes them. But then when he goes, Gary says to Maria, "We don't need everyone to know about this because it won't help." They're just being selfish, trying to keep the storyline to themselves. It's like, don't let Ardy in this story.
Poor Ardy, he can't catch a break with stories, can he? Like, goes out with Summer for a bit, no, that's gone. Gets involved in a flaming inferno of a car crash story for a bit, no, gone. He's going to take down Dev's business empire, no, that story doesn't go anywhere. This is his chance. Anyway,
meanwhile, Kelly's using Kelly's phone, voice assistant, to phone Gary. What a brilliant idea. If only Gary was not stupid. It would have worked. Gary leaves his phone just on the side. And I know people do this, but to me it's mental. What's the point of having a portable phone if you don't port it about? It goes straight to voicemail, and then to make things worse, the goon, who I've forgotten, Bob, comes and takes the phone back. So they're like, well, that didn't work. The thing is about when you're remotely controlling your phone, you can't control if it's lighting up or anything.
No.
Hide it. So their solution to this, tie her to the bars of the wall. Why? She can still use her voice.
She can shout really loud if they're going to leave it out on the side. But
they should have
they
gagged
probably learnt
her.
a lesson from that. They should, shouldn't they?
Gary tells Maria, I suppose she can't eat a sandwich if she's gagged.
It's probably quite difficult to eat a sandwich if your wrists are tied up to the wall as well, to be fair.
Gary goes to the shop to find out
What if she had like a smartwatch on that she could use to phone Gary? For heaven's sake, stop trying to rescue yourself.
Gary goes to the shop to find if Adam's heard from Kelly. No. Ardy smells a rat, but Gary says, everything's fine, don't worry. And then we see Ardy's phone, and he's messaged her loads, and she hasn't replied once. Take the hint. Then we get
Kieran
ringing Gary from Kelly's phone saying, hello Gary, I want 50 grand by tomorrow, and if you want to see her again, don't call the police.
Mm-hmm.
So this was interesting because, as usual in Coronation Street, people will say, oh no, we need to come up with 50 grand by tomorrow, or blah blah blah, and then they somehow get quite a lot of money from nowhere.
I know, it's so handy to be able to just
between-
put your hands on that.
Gary's like, oh, we don't have 50 grand. And the difference between Coronation Street, I don't have 50 grand, and real life 50 grand is that in real life, if you say you don't have 50 grand and you don't have 50 grand.
I mean, I can kind of understand it with Gary because we have seen him with copious amounts of cash in the past, haven't we? His Rick Neelan money, and there's also the stuff that came out under the floorboards and that. But even so, they always somehow manage to find a way for characters who need huge oodles of cash to be able to get it very shortly after, moaning that they can't do it. How do you do it, Corrie? Anyway, he's got the money out. He gets £24,000 ready for Wednesday's episode, which isn't everything, but it's a start.
So on Wednesday, Kelly wakes up in her cell and she is hungry and she needs the loo. She tells
Kieran or the other one.
And he says, I'll see what I can do. Well, where's the bucket? Has there not been a bucket in this murder hut?
Think of everything.
She's been holding it this whole time.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, considering it was the end of Friday's episode.
She's going to do herself a mischief. Over at the Windasses, Liam's been told that Kelly is staying with her mate for a while. Gary and Maria are having a little bit of a hushed whisper conversation about what they should do next. And he's like, I'm not going to the police and I'm not giving them any money until I know that Kelly's all right. And then Maria gets a call from Craig to go to the police station. So, at the police station, Officer Craigie tells Maria that they have arrested the creepy guy from the council meeting last week for planting the tracker on him.
Yeah, Maria isn't sure at that point what she's being called in for, is she? Because they think, maybe she's thinking, maybe they found her or something like that. But it's just that other story which we've forgotten about already. Although they do tie it very nicely into what happens on today's episode.
Well, this guy that is the one who tracked her is not the one she thought it was.
No, it's not Jimmy.
It's the creepy one who told her that he liked her porn film.
Yes.
Which is even worse because it shows her that because she's a public figure as a woman, there's going to be more than one person who is creepy and scary enough to send you death threats and track you.
Yeah.
So that to me would have been even more scary than...
They also said that this guy had been putting trackers in a load of women's bags and things, so he's a bit notorious for it.
He's a bit of a wally then, isn't he?
Yeah, a bit of one.
Back at home, Gary tells Maria that he scraped together half of the cash, but he can't get any more than that. And then the bloke phones up and Gary tells him, I've got what you want. Meet me in the car park, but I'm not giving it to you till I see that Kelly is safe. And Maria's like, oh, this is a dangerous game. Over in the cellar, they tell Kelly that they're off to see Gary and he has the money. And she's like, let me come. They're like, it's not an outing. I'm going on a trip. Stay here. So Kelly then hears a police siren go past and she's shouting, but obviously they can't hear her. Which I think, really, police sirens, double-edged sword, isn't it? On the one hand, they're like, don't worry, we're coming, or watch out, criminals, we're on the way. But also, they can't hear people screaming for help in murder huts.
Very good point.
They didn't think about this, have they? Especially in Weatherfield, that murder huts everywhere.
Yeah.
Gary waits in an empty car park and another car pulls up and he's like, here's not all the money. And they're like, no, we don't accept instalments. We're not Argos. But Argos do sponsor this show if you'd like to buy some very lovely Habitat furniture for your murder hut. They stand firm, they want the full amount, they're not intimidated by him in the least, which is not surprising because he's not very intimidating. They take the bag, they get in the car and they like drive around him in a circle like a toddler on a tricycle.
They do, don't they? It's like, thanks for the money, sucker.
Bye!
I loved that.
I'm surprised they didn't go toot toot as they left in triumph. So, Blokey goes back to the cellar and says to Kelly, we haven't got all the money, you're not going anywhere. I really want that money because my girlfriend wants a second-hand Tesla for her birthday. Product placement, that, isn't it? I want a second-hand Tesla.
50 grand.
Makes sense. It's about half the amount of a normal one, isn't it? They're very expensive.
No idea.
Gary shows up at the cellar and because he put a tracker in the holdall with the cash.
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise entrance from Gary, wasn't it? They didn't show, anything apart from here I am, I'm here.
Determinedly,
or looking like he had a plan. The last that we'd seen him was him going Casa.
He's just standing there looking a bit stupid in the car park.
Yeah, although I suppose at the time he was, secretly being triumphant because he did have a plan all along. He put a tracker in the bag, which I thought was a very nice link to the other story.
Well done.
Thank goodness for that person that tracked Maria, because otherwise Gary probably wouldn't have thought about it.
Can I just say what a massive risk this was? While your wife is having an investigation open about a dodgy person who's put a tracker in your phone, are you really going to in your bag, go online and buy a tracker yourself and create a paper trail of you having a history of buying tracking devices that mysteriously go missing?
It's fine by this point because we
well,
know
luckily
who it
for
is.
him, the Weatherfield police don't investigate anything to any extent.
So I, as a viewer, I'm just kind of left a bit confused about what I should be thinking about trackers at this point.
Good or
are they
evil?
Bad or are they very handy?
Can you
I just
use
don't
them?
know.
I suppose when you use them for the power of good, they're good, just like anything else. Just like a hammer, you can use it to put up a picture, but you can also hammer your husband to death when he's sleeping.
And I don't know how you came straight to that one.
Solidly specific.
Yeah, it is a little bit. This is your plan. No, because that, and that's why they're not illegal, I suppose. Because we were talking about this in the podcast last week, weren't we? This should be illegal, but no, it's fine.
That's what the policeman should have said.
Good for crime solving.
It's like, should we make hammers illegal? Should we? Because you can use them to... Actually, write that down. We should probably make hammers illegal. So, Gary shows up, like I said. I'm sure you guys are excited to hear what happens next.
I think they know.
He quickly tries to untie Kelly, and then Blokey comes up behind him and just punches him on the head, and he falls unconscious on the floor.
I've missed Gary being beaten up when he's attempting to be heroic and brave.
He always does try, doesn't he? And it's weird to me that he doesn't really have a reputation for being somebody that shows up and just collapses on the floor.
I'm surprised that he hasn't developed any kind of brain damage or anything up to
think
this
he
point.
has.
The number of times that he's been whacked over the head with various objects.
Judgment, has he? So
no, but I enjoyed it.
So he's on the floor, and then along comes Blokey's talking to his mate on the phone, and he says, "Come round, we need to kick Gary, and we've got him on the floor."
They've got some steel toe-capped boots that they're going to give him a right laying into with.
And Kelly's like, "Oh, you know what? That would be good because when I kicked someone to death, I got blood on my trainers and they were white ones."
Yeah, if only that they'd had steel toe-capped boots.
What colour are your
to death.
boots? Are they sort of like a rusty brown? Because that would really work perfectly with my murder wardrobe.
The blood rubs right off of steel toe-capped boots, probably, doesn't it?
Well, that goes to show you that even though she was a murderer, she wasn't professional. No. So we should forgive her.
I think that Corey should have said that just proves that it wasn't premeditated Seb kicking.
Oh,
because if it was,
true.
I'd have brought along with steel toe-cap boots.
Yeah, that's very true.
Football boots, probably.
Unbeknownst to the evil ones,
Kieran.
Gary is conscious now.
Yes.
And Kelly can see that he is, and she's untying herself. I don't know why. Oh, Gary loosened the ropes, so she quickly untying herself secretly. And then Kieran turns his back in triumph, like, "Ha ha ha, no one can defeat me." And Gary jumps on him, and they have a tussle. It looks like Gary's going to throttle him and kill him, like he did with Rick. But Kelly's still there, remember? She whacks Blokey around the head with a crowbar, knocks him out cold, and before they escape, Gary's like, "Give me the crowbar, I'm going to kill him." And she's like, "No." And then eventually he leaves with her, and she throws the crowbar down, and they run off.
Then they go back home.
This was quite interesting, wasn't it? Because this is the second time now that Kelly, and I'm going to be sensible now, this is the second time now that Kelly's been in the presence of a man who is trying to kill somebody on the floor. And the first time she didn't do anything about it really, or she couldn't stop him from doing it. But this time she has. She's managed to prevent the murder from happening. But the thing is, though, I don't think that she has... I think this is kind of screwed with her head a bit more. Like, for me, you know, this could have been like a redemption story where, you know, these two things happen and she redeems herself the second time by preventing it. But she seems quite disturbed. I suppose you would be, wouldn't you?
Yeah, she was properly. She'd been
in a murder
disturbed
hut.
is right. When she gets back home, she's
like, I was in a murder hut and they gave me a prawn mayonnaise sandwich and I wasn't really sure whether it had been refrigerated properly. And then they wouldn't give me a bucket.
It wasn't so much a hut. A hut kind of seemed quite nice, like wooden walls with maybe a few plants creeping in and some tropical music playing or something. It was much more of a murder cellar to me.
Okay. Gary and Kelly get back and they tell Maria what's happened, and Kelly's looking a bit sad, shell-shocked. They've been to the police, and the police, like, very, very efficient in this case. They say, well, it sounds like you've told us your side of the story and we're not going to bother to investigate. Sounds like whacking them on the head was reasonable force. You're not going to get in trouble. Which is bizarre. Like, they didn't go to the bloke. What happened?
Did you feel that you were whacked over the head with reasonable force, or was it more than you actually deserved by being an evil kidnapper?
Yeah.
Well, they've gone off to try and find this bloke, haven't they? And we find out on Friday's episode, in the first scene, I think, that he's on the run. I think that's what it is. I wasn't clear, and I did rewatch some of this morning as well, but I think the police have tried to find him, but they can't.
Classic.
Yes.
He's like a witch when you land a house on him, just disappears. And all that's left is his beautiful shoes, steel capped.
Yeah, so they've not even been able to like investigate how his head's doing. Like, what's the depth of the indentation caused by this crowbar attack? It must have been reasonable. You're Kelly, you'd never do anything too wrong.
To be frank, we could investigate this, but I don't know that I can be bothered. And we've got biscuits, so we'll do that. So anyway, post bath, Kelly asked Gary if he was going to kill Keenan, and he says the world is better off without some people. And she says, like me dad, and he's like, oh, not like your dad, I don't know what you mean. Like, she says to him that she relies on him, so does Maria and Liam, and I think Sprog gets a name check.
Who's which Sprog? Oh, Jake.
Nicola.
Oh, Zach.
I think she mentions Jack as well.
Does she?
And Zach. What? And that
Jake and Zach, and he's got so many kids.
This was the funny thing. It just kind of highlighted what a bad parent he is. That he also has 2 additional children that apparently rely on him, but he never talks to.
About.
No. What would have happened to them if they'd arrested Gary? Has he ever lost it like this before? And he's like, no. I'm surprised they didn't try to make more parallels between this and... I
think they still will.
Yeah. On Friday, Kelly's had a nightmare about the cellar and the prawn sandwich, and Gary says, not to fuel your nightmares, but the man that did this to you is on the run. Maybe you shouldn't go out today. And she's like, no way, I'm not going to hide myself. I've done nothing wrong. Inadvisable. Kelly goes into the shop later and she apologises to Ardy for not going to the date. And so she's like, stuff came up and I couldn't get there. Can we try again? And he agrees. So they have their date later and it gets a bit awkward. And Ardy puts his foot in it by Joy. I don't know what you mean here.
What's my note? By Joy. I don't know. But he says something goofy. And later on there's something about him, somebody talks about him, was it Asher maybe? Or somebody says he's dithering at the doorstep and whether he's going to kiss Kelly or not. But yeah, he asked her about the what she's been through and stuff, and it's all a bit awkward.
Well, yeah, but they do get some free samosas.
Yes,
that are sweet ones.
samosas.
I've never heard of sweet samosas.
Me neither. Sounds nice.
I don't think you'd like them because they probably haven't put fruit in them.
I would not. Well, it depends what fruit.
Raisins and apples.
No.
That's what I imagined. I imagined them being strudels, actually, now I think about it.
Yeah, not chocolate filled, which is what I'd like. It might be, though.
Bit gloopy.
No, nice.
Well, we'll have to do some research. Kelly comes home...
You can probably put what you fancy in it, really. Bit of caramel, bit of cream, bit of custard. Oh, yeah, custard samosas.
You have to deep fry them.
I don't care. I don't need to bother myself with knowledge of how cooking works. I just have it brought to me.
Yeah, I know this. Kelly comes home after the date and she says, that was nice and normal, just what I wanted right now. The end.
So it trailed off a little bit by Fridays, didn't it? But I thought that this was a really strong story this week. How did you enjoy Kelly's ordeal?
It was not. I mean, again, it's one of these things where it's like I don't think that Kelly Nealon's going to get killed in a murder cellar by somebody that nobody really knows what their name is. So I think she'll be all right.
So, yeah, I mean, I never thought that she was going to be in any great peril.
And also, it wasn't a question of, ooh, how is she going to get out of this one? Because I'm like, she's going to get rescued by Gary.
She could have still escaped.
Or she could have escaped. I know, but it's not like... It's like the solution to this problem is something we've seen about a million times.
I went into this story because I saw about this, like a little spoiler picture of it a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, I saw Kelly in a cellar, and my immediate reaction was to just give a big sigh and go, oh, there we go, Kelly's going to get herself in trouble again. Another story about Saint Kelly, and oh dear, damsel in distress, or we're all going to have to feel sorry for Kelly, and it's probably going to be a bit rubbish. But I actually really, really enjoyed it. I thought that it was well done. I thought that the villains were effective enough. I didn't think that they were, they weren't too comedy villains, were they?
No, I just think there wasn't a lot of interaction between Kelly and her captors, was there, or anything. It really wasn't a big story, which makes me think that the fact that this guy's also done a runner, it makes me think that this was just sort of a setup for us to be introduced to this villain. Yeah. So that he'll come back at a later date and then we'll be like, oh, we're intimidated because he's got form.
But I thought he was very intimidating in the scenes that he had. He was proper scary. He was no Mick the gangster, was he? No. He gave me a little idea. He made me think a little bit of Rick Nealon with that kind of evil glint he had in his eyes. And sometimes villains just do not work, and they they couldn't say boo to a goose. Is that the word?
You can say boo to a goose, but they don't respect it.
No, but I thought he did a good job, and I was definitely expecting her to be holed up in the cellar for a lot longer. I don't know whether I was just thinking back to the Andy Carver story and thinking about the weeks that he was down there and whether it was going to turn into that. And I think that's maybe part of the problem that I had when I saw the picture of it. I thought, oh, great, now we're going to be treated to weeks of Kelly being all sad and pathetic in the cellar, and there's going to be a manhunt for Kelly, and it's going to be everyone going, oh, poor Kelly, poor Kelly. But I think it was probably good for the story that it was over and done with, or this part of it, in 2 days, because it was all nicely condensed. I thought that the set itself was quite good. Were you convinced that they were in some dank celery pit somewhere?
Yeah, in fact, it was so convincing that I had to go downstairs just to check it wasn't being filmed in our basement.
If we wanted to kidnap somebody, we have got the perfect downstairs area for it.
Yeah, but I think our neighbours would complain.
We'd have to tidy up first, because we've got our standards.
No, throw them in there like that. Go, look, if you don't like it, you tidy it up.
But if they were a resourceful kind of kidnappee, then sort of hostage, then they might be able to cobble together something to escape. That's all I'm worried about.
If they're probably resourceful, they can be like our cat Abby and just walk through the wall, go into the workshop and just eat all the food out of the chest freezer. But
no, I thought the set was good. I thought it was fairly convincing. The apart from, there were some publicity stills that were released from this, and there it looked a lot settier. It was like the lighting on it, on the publicity stills.
Probably the lighting that does a lot of that.
It was, but actually in the show itself, I could have been convinced that they were actually in a cellar somewhere. It did the job for me. It was dank enough. It was dark enough. I thought they did a good job. And as for the escape scene itself, I was really impressed by that, because I wasn't expecting Gary to come to her aid quite so quickly, and I thought that using the tracker was very, very clever. And the bit where he was laid out on the floor and she was whacking him with the crowbar, I thought they did a good job of kind of keeping us on the edge of the seat there. I didn't know what was going to happen. When she actually whacked him, I was like, oh my gosh, has she killed him? The bit where Gary was rolling over on top of him, I didn't know whether he was going to kill again. Were you wondering whether he was going to claim a third victim?
I don't think I was, but now you say it sounds more exciting the way you're describing it.
It was. I thought it was super exciting. And then the whole thing about, give me the crowbar, because he obviously wanted then to get his fingerprints on it, didn't he? So that... Don't you think?
I thought he said, give me the crowbar, I'm going to smash his head in.
Oh, did you? Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's why I said earlier about Kelly's preventing another murder.
I wasn't sure. Maybe you're right, but yeah, when I was watching it, I was reading it saying... let me get my fingerprints all over this. So if he is dead and if he's found, I'm going to take the rap for it. I thought he was being protective. But it could have been that he actually was going to do it.
I think he was going to kill him.
And
that's why Kelly wouldn't give it to him. Why do you think Kelly wouldn't give it to him then?
Because I thought that she was thinking, no, I don't want you to go down for this. I've just bludgeoned this guy, possibly to death.
Really
I don't want you to take the rap for me.
Okay, maybe we need to watch it again and decide what we think.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, so that was cool. I enjoyed that there were definite parallels to Rick's death there, with him kind of rolling over the top of him.
Well, okay, this goes to show you how violent these two characters are, because there were parallels with Rick's death in that Gary was kind of very close to murdering somebody, again, who's close to Kelly. And there were parallels with Seb's death in that Kelly was involved in a crime where somebody was being incredibly violent and she had an opportunity to stop or try to stop them from doing it.
Yeah. So I wonder now, like, it was also very interesting when she was saying at the end of that episode, I've never seen that side of you before. Have you ever been that violent again? And that's making me think, I've never seen you like that before. And that was making me think, so is this where the storyline's going to go down now? Is she actually going to uncover the truth about him killing her dad?
I think this is the beginning of that story, because she's quite clever. She's going to start wondering, like, how much were you involved in what my dad did, and what did you actually do for my dad when you worked for him? Is that, you know, it seemed like you were quite familiar with this. And really thinking back, I'm not sure what Kelly knows about Gary. I can't remember whether she knows that much about it, because when she said I've never seen this side of you before, I was thinking, he does this all the time.
He's always beating people up.
He's always getting beaten up by goons.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. That
line was very important, actually, because I think it's important. You know, it establishes to the viewers that although we all know what Gary's really like, she doesn't, and I think I didn't really fully appreciate that until they put that line in.
I mean, she might also, like, talk to Maria, for example, and say, well,
Maria's not going to say anything.
No, I know, but she might give a guilty look or something if she. I can't remember exactly what detail Gary and Kelly have revealed to Maria. I don't know how about what happened down there, and about who laid out who and why it happened, and the fact that Gary was really, you know, ready to kill this guy. I got a feeling there was a line that said that they might be keeping that little detail from Maria. But yeah, I if they do go down that route of Kelly finding out that it was him that killed Rick, I'd be pleasantly surprised, because I thought that it had just been buried. I thought it was, you know, Laura had said that it was her done it, taken the secret to her grave about the actual perpetrator of the crime, and then that was it, and it was a way of keeping Gary Windass in the show, a little bit like, you know, with Callum's death. That's been the secret for, you know, 7-8 years now, and it feels like Kylie, Sarah, David have got away with their involvement in Callum's death. So, but I've wanted Gary to be caught or found out or whatever for ages now, and it just felt like they were saying, no, we want to keep him in the show. So I don't. Do you think that he is? Do you think that if Kelly finds out that it was him that did it, do you think that she'll keep quiet about it? If he says, no, honestly, he jumped me, I was just defending myself, he said that he was going to go off and kill Sarah Louise, do you think that would be enough for Kelly to say, oh, that's all right then? Or would she report him?
Say it all again.
If Kelly finds out, if Gary admits, or if she overhears Maria and Gary talking about it, if she finds out that he killed her dad,
she forgive him?
Well, yeah.
Because now she's been in 2 situations, hasn't she, where somebody's died or nearly died.
Yeah, and it's her dad who, you know, say what you like about him and his nefariousness, he was still her dad.
I can't remember what she thought about him now.
Well, she was upset when she found that she was mega upset with her mum when she thought that she killed her, because she refused to go and see her mum on her deathbed, didn't she?
Don't know.
So I think that if she found out that Gary was the one that did it, you never know, and so do you. Temporarily, at least, for a few episodes, she might be quite peeved at him. But it certainly left the story an interesting point that I wasn't expecting it to go down. Like, I've not particularly been a huge fan of all the Maria and Gary stuff over the past few weeks, and all the environmental stuff's not been particularly interesting to me. But now I'm kind of, it's piqued my interest again, so I think they've done a good job with it.
One thing I think that might be interesting is if she finds out that Gary did kill her dad, and she forgives him immediately because she remembers what it was like when she's been confronted in that way. But then, as she thinks about it more, and she confides in somebody, she realises actually, no, this is psychopathic, and then she kind of like plots revenge on him in some way. It's going to be more interesting if, no matter what her initial reaction is, she changes her mind in retrospect. But it would be more of a twist if she accepted him and then rejected him rather than the other way around, because that's quite predictable, isn't it? Oh no, I can't believe you did it. And actually, now I thought about it, he was a bit of a dick. So,
well, we have seen from this week's episodes and other ones that she has got the capacity for evil scheming. I really like the thing that she did with the text message, putting on about tell mum I'm okay.
That's not evil scheming. That's being.
That's smarts to get yourself out of a dodgy situation. I thought it was clever, but that was also a massive risk as well, because if he'd have replied back to the text saying, "What are you on about?
Your mum's dead.
Your mum's dead, remember?" Then that could have been a lot more.
Well, Gary's thick, but I don't think he's that thick.
I don't know. I think if I got something with somebody saying to me,
"Oh, well, you're going to get me killed then, are you?"
I might get you killed.
If I'm kidnapped and I'm like, I'm okay, I'm just staying with a friend, say hi to your mum for me, you're going to be like, she wants me dead.
I probably wouldn't think. I think I'd probably just immediately reply back with a little question mark tap back or a emoji, and then a few minutes later, I'd go, oh yeah, she was probably trying to tell me a secret, and then a few minutes after that, I'd probably like receive a little video message of you getting your head chopped off or something.
Oh, no.
I'd be like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't have been so quick to reply to my text message.
How am I going to get another co-host for my podcast?
Would that be if you were in that situation?
I can't say that now, can I? Because
what would be your, in case any of our listeners?
Statistically speaking, you're more likely to be like attacked or murdered by somebody who knows you.
Right. So if one of our listeners is going to kidnap you and hold you up in a cellar,
I'm not going to say now. Then
what's your secret message?
I'm not going to say because they'll hear me.
What if it's not one of our listeners?
I'll be like, I'm fine. I can't wait to get back and record the show with you.
Wink,
and you'll
wink.
be like,
I'd get back and I'd say, oh, Gemma, make sure you set EastEnders to record.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'd say, Michael, don't forget, you're cooking dinner tonight.
that definitely.
And you'd be like, something's wrong. Can't believe I'm not doing that. Get the police around going, she's making me cook dinner, I don't know how to do it. Can you help me?
That's so funny. Okay, so strong start to the week, I thought, with this story, partly because it did take me by surprise about how much I enjoyed it. So let's move on to the Tyrone story and see what went there. And the last that we saw of him and Phil, they're on their little mini moon in the hotel, but he's back from that on Monday.
Why haven't we done a bit about when Tyrone and Alina broke up, and it should be called Tylone?
Maybe we did, but why not? Any case, so Tylone is nice. I like that. I just got that. So Fizz is utterly exasperated by Tyrone because he wasn't able to get Phil to talk him out of trying to get back with her, which was part of the point of him going over there, to try and persuade him or dissuade him from pursuing Fizz still. But anyway, they haven't got any time to think about all that now because they're off to couples therapy later, and they go along to this place that I'm interested to know whereabouts in the Corrie studios they filmed these scenes, but it looked like it was in some dodgy corridor somewhere, didn't it? It's just like breeze blocks on the wall, a couple of posters stuck up there to brighten the place up a bit. But if I was going to couples therapy, I'd probably want somewhere a little bit, a little bit more nicely decorated than that. Get me feeling a little bit more cosy. I don't know. So they're there. They've got this woman and who's wanting to know about how long they've been together. They talk about the girls and so on. And then when prompted, Tyrone starts to talk about how things went a little bit south for the relationship and how he was tempted away by Alina, and it's all a bit awkward for him. But the therapist says, no, it's really important that everybody is open here about their feelings. And then she notices that Fizz is squirming a little bit when they kind of go down the route of talking about Alina. And Fizz says, well, yeah, it's quite difficult to forget her when he's got this AP tattoo on his leg. And I can't remember whether this Did this tattoo? I think some people, and we didn't notice this ourselves, but they noticed that when he was at the hotel with Phil last week and he had his dressing gown or whatever, you could see the Tyrone AP tattoo on there. And I think there might have been a scene earlier in this week where he's like doing up his shoes or something, and it shows up. Or maybe that was on Wednesdays. I don't know. But anyway, that would be that would be difficult to be able to ignore, wasn't it? If your partner's got a tattoo, maybe if you're into if you're into foot stuff or whatever, then you're never really going to be able to ignore that.
Well, Fizz says at the beginning of the week, I don't like the tattoo and I can't deal with it. But actually, she kind of acts like she doesn't care about it for the rest of the week.
Well, that's because it's been tattooed over the top of by the rest of the week. It kind of turns into a bit of a joke. I would
just be furious. I would be so furious with him. I wouldn't get back with him.
I know.
But like the idea that you're with a man who raised children with you for years and years and years with no commitment to you whatsoever, and then as soon as a police comes along, he's tattooing her bloody initials on his leg. Such a stupid idiot.
Well,
so ridiculous.
Tyrone was persuaded to do lots of things that he wouldn't normally be comfortable with doing when he was going out with Alina, didn't he?
I hate
like
him
wearing
so
those
much.
tight trousers.
They both deserve misery.
I suppose that having a tattoo of an ex-partner's name or initials or face or whatever on your body is something that quite a lot of couples have to deal with.
It's interesting.
Because not everybody is, a one-woman guy like me.
Oh, really?
So I imagine, I guess that lots of people must have partners with somebody else's name on them, and that would be really annoying.
I wouldn't like that.
We've already got David has got his Tina tattoo on his shoulder, hasn't he?
But that's
David
different
Platt.
because she was murdered.
Yeah, that's true. But even, I guess that is different. You think, well, I won there, says Shona. I was shot in a box and I'm fine.
Yeah.
Kylie, what a weakling. Gets stabbed once and then bleeds out on the street and that's it for her.
Tina get pushed off the side of a...
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. So it's Tina. He's got the tattoo. It's not Kylie, isn't it? Yeah. Tina can't even survive being pushed off the garage, the builder's yard, and getting hit over the head with a crowbar.
In many ways, when Shona was shot in a box, she probably thought, "Wow, I kind of had this coming, didn't I?"
Yeah, just going out with David.
Yeah,
it's gonna get you eventually.
Surprised that Emma was the one who ran a bloke over, not the other way around.
Anyway, so they come back from therapy later. They're all loved up and everything, but Fizz is still bringing up this tattoo. She just cannot deal with it. Wednesday's episode. Tyrone's got a plan for what he's going to do with this tattoo, and what he actually ends up doing it is far more extravagant than what I was expecting. I was thinking like he's got an AP and he's got a TY, and what words could you turn that into? So I thought like the AP might turn into a happy or something, and I don't know what TY could turn into. Unity or something like that. But he's got his plan, and it's fairly obvious that he was gonna go and do something with it. I mean, so he goes. So he's off doing that on Wednesday. Fizz and Phil, meanwhile, are having a chat in the bistro, and she's still saying that she wants an annulment. It's for the best for the both of us. She asks about the mini moon. He tells them about all the war films that they watched together, and he jokes that Tyrone has got a thing for men in uniform, and Fizz says, "Oh, he's not the only one," which gives him an idea. And that reminded me as well of Fizz's brother Billy, who has been completely forgotten about, and the only time we've ever seen him was in his armour uniform. But anyway, Phil shows up at the factory later with his pilot's hat on, which, did you borrow it from a mate or something? Do you remember where he said he got this from? But wherever it was, he wasn't able to get the whole uniform, and he tries to lift her up like in that famous movie scene. Do you know the one it was trying to reference? Simpsons did a parody of it as well one time. The do 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 do. You know,
I don't know
Gemma?
what you're talking about.
There's a famous scene where somebody goes into a factory and lifts their...
factory?
I think so.
Are you talking about Top Gun?
I don't think it was Top Gun.
Well, they have a Navy factory for people that fly planes.
I don't think it was that. No, there's a film. I've not actually seen the original film this was based on. I've just seen the Simpsons.
Gere?
I've just seen the Simpsons parody of it before, and I'm basing it on that, where somebody goes into a factory and Homer takes Marge off and and go into the sunset, and he was going to do that with her, but anyway, he tries to lift Fizz up, but
he spends too many times doing parodies of movies.
He does, doesn't he? She's a little bit too heavy for him, so he does his back in, and that's the end of that. So Fizz has to take him to the medical centre, where he makes a bit of a pillock of himself when he's giving his details to the woman behind the desk, and he's just being a little bit over friendly and stuff. Speaking of which, Gemma, woman behind the desk, not Moira.
Disgusting.
This could have been the grand return of Moira Pollock, and they wasted it by some poor woman who did a fairly decent job as being a behind the desk lady at the medical centre. But I'm sure around the country everyone was just saying, no, but what about Moira? Anyway,
I think it was an officer and a gentleman.
That's it. That's what I'm thinking
but
of.
I haven't seen it because it sounds crap.
That sounds about right to me. Anyway, so he's being overly jovial at the desk, and then he sits down and he starts to complain very loudly about everybody sitting around on their phones being a bunch of miserable buggers or whatever. And while they're waiting, Fizz is apologising to him for everything and says, oh yeah, I got back. What does he know at this point? He still doesn't know that Tyrone and Fizz, he doesn't know that they're back together at this point, does he? I can't remember. Don't think so. Anyway, no, of course he doesn't. He doesn't know that. So anyway, she says, it was all my fault. We need to move on. And finally, he very graciously admits defeat and says, right, I'm not going to pester you again. I'll sign the annulment forms tomorrow. Then it's going to be over with. You've won, Fizz. You have got me out of your life. Back at home,
boo!
Tyrone reveals that he has had the AP tattoo changed into a very dodgy looking portrait of Fizz, and that really caught me off guard. I thought that was hilarious. He could have done that in a more subtle manner, couldn't he? But he's got this big Fizz face on him, and it says it says T and then Fizz. It doesn't even. It's like it's saying Tut Fizz, which is what they say when they're having a celebration. Bring out Tut Fizz.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he
also spells the name wrong.
Yes, he spells it wrong, which was brilliant because we were always seeing people spelling Fizz with double Z's on social media and things.
Just remember, everyone, it's 1 Z for Fizz and 2 L's for Phil.
It is very confusing, but I think that was a little dig from the writers about everybody always forgets how they spell their name. And Fizz of Tyrone be like saying, it doesn't matter, it's a nickname. It doesn't matter how you spell it.
That would be so offensive to me. I wouldn't
Me
even
too.
be able to speak.
I know. She's like, I've been a character in this for
almost
almost 20
years. You spell my name wrong,
years.
and then you deny the importance of spelling and grammar to my face.
But it did make me think, like, has he ever seen it written down? Because I imagine all like the official post and everything that comes through still says Fiona on.
Yeah.
But then if people were sending like Christmas cards,
maybe
it's going to have Fizz with one Z.
And she just put up with it, and she now realises she should have corrected it the first time.
But he must have seen other people writing in Christmas cards and birthday cards with one Z.
I'm starting to wonder if he can read at all.
Well, that was one of his early stories, not being able to read properly, wasn't it? And he got Ken to give him lessons. But anyway,
Ken should give his money back.
I found it hilarious, and it made it. And it
just annoyed me.
Cherry on the top for this when she says, "Look, you can always have the extra Z removed. It's fine." And he says, "Don't be silly. You can't get tattoos removed." And then it transpires that if he knew about this or thought about it a little bit harder, he could have just got the original tattoo removed rather than having a tattoo that was about 3 times as big being plastered over the top of it. She, luckily for him, finds it all hilarious, and they're just having a little loved up laugh.
Everything she's getting.
We're definitely not on the same page about this storyline, are we?
I don't laugh about infidelity.
Friday's episode, Fizz and Evelyn are still ribbing Tyrone about this massive tattoo. But they also kind of talk about the annulment hopefully being sorted today. So Fizz meets up with Phil in the cafe, and it seems like he's still not built up the courage to sign the forms yet. He just can't put pen to paper.
This is so important to him. He cared about her so much.
I know.
Nobody's appreciating how difficult this is, and she's just acting like he's an inconvenience. And she's very sympathetic and everything, but she does not understand at all.
She doesn't. She doesn't.
She's so selfish.
I know, but I'm still on their side.
No.
He says, "Look, I still love you and I can't imagine living without you." And he puts the envelope down and he's like, "No, not signing it yet."
You're too good for them, Phil.
So what he does is he thinks of another plan, which is to go to marriage guidance sessions. And this was another, like, a bit like the Gary suddenly appearing in the cellar. This was a non-built up to scene, wasn't it? It's just like, and here they are in the office, and they show them, the pair of them talking about their problems or whatever, and then the camera switches over to the counsellor, and it's the same person that Fizz and Tyrone were there.
She's looking at Fizz like,
she
absolute...
She really is. I thought that was a really great reveal.
It was funny.
Of her. It was so funny. But she kind of she doesn't put her foot in it. It's not her problem to. It's not her.
I wouldn't care.
She doesn't have to police the.
I'm not involved in other people's infidelity. Don't tell me.
Yeah.
What you're up to. I don't
So
know.
she refers to her as Fizz, and Phil's like, "Hang on a minute. How do you know what her name is? How do you know what her nickname is? I suppose because he probably would have had to have put Fiona on the paperwork or whatever." And she's like, "Oh, you told me when you booked the session," and he buys this excuse, and
That's
they carry
he's a
on.
nice person.
I know he is a lovely person.
Phil for president.
I know. He opens up about what's happened, and the woman makes a very pointed comment about the importance of honesty in relationships. And Fizz says that she's right. I've just written Fizz in the notes with two Z's here.
I thought that's good. That's what she just said.
She says that she's right and says, "I am never going." My honesty.
She says you're right. Honesty is important.
So, and I'm going to be honest here and say, I am never going to love you, Phil, the way that you want. And she says, "You'll always be Mr. Right, just not Mr. Right for me." So they go home.
You had plenty of time to say this.
I know. They go home and tells Tyrone and Evelyn what's happened, and she says it was super awkward and everything, but at least Phil has agreed to sign the annulment papers later.
If I was this therapist, I'd like go, thanks Fizz, you can go now. And then I'd say to Phil, like, sign those papers, she's a nightmare.
I know.
I don't normally say this, but you can't save this.
So some people you just can't win.
She's a nightmare woman.
Evelyn goes to the pub later and Phil's there, and she's saying, "Come on, sign these papers, get some self-respect, sign the forms." She's kind of persuading him to say that...
Who's saying that?
Evelyn. Yeah. She's saying, "Look, you're better off without her." Obviously, she's not doing this as a dig to Fizz and Tyrone because she wants them to get back together, but to try and make him...
She's telling the truth. Like, if you're being nice and kind and not judgmental for once, which is, good for Evelyn for trying it out. You would say there's no happiness here.
Yeah.
They're meant to be together. You're not going to win this one.
Yeah.
You should just you know the truth now. Move on with your life. You're going to have a good life. You're going to have your own family, but you can't do that with her.
Yeah. And he says, "Fine, I'll sign the forms, but I need to have Fizz here by my side when I'm doing it. I'm just going to ring her up to see if she can come round and watch me sign. But wait a minute, what's this? My phone is gone."
Where did I leave it?
Where could I have possibly left my phone? So Fizz goes to the therapist later again, this time with Tyrone, and the woman's like, "Oh, she's coining it in this week, isn't she?"
I know, this is why I'm thinking now is the right time for Toya to return to counselling, because this woman's obviously taken all of her business.
Yeah, obviously. So the woman is completely exasperated by the whole situation, and she says, "Look, Fizz, Phil deserves to know the truth." But then, what do you know, Phil barges into the room because there was nobody at reception or something. And oh no, Fizz and Tyrone are there. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" Sorry, this is one of the most unbelievable parts about this week. With everything else happened, the fact that Phil just barges into somebody's therapy session, how rude. And I'm on Fizz and Tyrone's side. I think Fizz is a nice guy. But I don't think...
You think Fizz is a nice guy?
Fizz and Tyrone are nice people.
They're not, they're horrible.
I don't think that Phil would have barged into somebody else's therapy session. Just imagine if it had been absolutely anybody, they'd have torn him a new one. It's a private meeting, Philip. Don't do that again.
So he deserves to have his life completely ruined because he walked into... I just want to be clear about what you're trying to say.
I'm just conflicted and confused about whose side I should be on this. I think that's been obvious all the way along.
Most people are on Tyrone and Fizz's side.
I don't think they are. I think an awful lot of people on social media are championing Phil in this. Good. So anyway, Phil knows that they're back together again, and...
well, no, he comes in and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" And then Fizz is like,
"Oh, it's only just happened.
We've only just sat down to have this meeting."
Yeah, and he's like, "I'm never going to trust anybody again after this."
I would be incandescent with rage if I was him, because not only did you sneak behind my back, right, and get back together and then spend all my money on a stupid wedding that you didn't even want, dump me after already having said your vows and made me worried. But you're so unsure about this relationship that you're going to counselling immediately. That's the kick in the teeth. That is.
He is pretty incandescent with rage because he goes.
Should have just. He's so tall. He should have just hit them both on the head with his fists and hammered them directly to the centre of the earth.
Yeah, he's got big strong arms. You remember that picture that
like
Hope drew the other year. So anyway, he goes storming off down the road.
Good.
I did appreciate this week. There were a few nice little off-site location shoots, wasn't there? There was Gary in the car park.
Yeah,
there were these people
that's
around
true.
it. I think that was done off-site, but maybe it was done in Media City. I don't know. Anyway, they're going down the road. Tyrone's there saying, sorry, I just want to be friends with you, Phil. And Phil's like, nope, we are over. Bromance of the century over.
Ever again.
And Tyrone and Fizz get home later and they just don't know what to do about this. Evelyn says, just go to the Rovers, announce that you're back together again because it's all out now. You might as well go and enjoy a drink with it. But while they're out there, Evelyn invites Phil round and to try and get him to sign this annulment. And he says, look, just sign it. It's all for the best. He feels like, oh, my life is over. And she's like, just no, you've got it all going for you. You've got a lovely house in Cardiff.
Why don't you marry someone from
Wales? You're a budding
Wales?
author.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Go to Wales and write my book.
John Stape.
Do you know what I'd do? I'd make out that it was all Fiona, it was all Fizz that drove him to it. And
yes.
I would kind of like
cast
her as the Machiavellian villain behind of all of John Stape's hapless escapades.
He totally could do that,
That would be brilliant. And if they haven't got that as a storyline, please take it.
You could sell it as fiction and say, oh, it's just purely coincidental.
How can she prove anything he's saying is wrong? He can say first-hand experience. He can go on all the chat shows and be like, look, I never would have believed this about her because she seems so nice and sweet, but I was in a relationship with this woman and she is a narcissistic, evil person who will destroy you. And then he'll go through all the things that she did to him and everyone will be sympathetic because everyone can't wait to hate women.
Tell you what, that sounds almost as juicy as the Meghan Markle one that's just come out this week.
No comment.
Jem was up at midnight. So, anyway, Evelyn's like, let's go on, just sign this flipping thing. There's somebody out there who's going to make you very happy someday. There might even be a character in this programme. You never know if you stick around.
I don't know. She's like, you got your paperwork there? Have you got your contract for the show? Because I can help you out. Because if you're going in a bit, you probably sign the papers now and save yourself some time. Yeah. And if you're getting paid anyway, you might as well just take the money and go and not be in any more episodes. But if you've got a year one, I'm going to say start looking about.
So when did...
Because Gary might be outed as a murderer and Maria likes the high life and she's also very pretty.
I'm trying to think when Phil first appeared in the programme and I'm going to say it must have been around late summer, early autumn last year. And usually, you know, these contracts are year-long ones. So I think we may have a couple more months of Phil possibly.
No, we've got 12 months of Phil. Carry on telling the story.
Oh, yeah, we could do, couldn't we?
Evelyn says, sign it.
Yeah, sign it and go to the... And
he says his life's over. My life's over. And she's like, no, it's not.
It's not over at all. Tyrone and Fizz go to the pub under Evelyn's instruction and she understands...
Hey, can I just say another thing about the house that you were saying about? Like, oh, he's going to be all right because he's got his house and he's got whatever. He's lost his job.
Yeah, I don't think he's got a new job since. I
can't remember what happened. Why did he lose his job? Was it because
he's leaking the counsellor information,
his
wasn't it, to Maria?
With Fizz that he lost his job, really, because he helped out Maria. And now he's got this house, and the agreement was that Tyrone would sell his house to help fund some of the renovations towards Phil's house because Fizz was going to live there and Phil needed the extra money now he doesn't have a job.
Yes.
Now, he's basically... His love life's been decimated, he's been humiliated, he's spent loads of money on the wedding, and he's in financial straits because this lump sum from Tyrone's house isn't gonna...
It's gonna materialise.
She's ruined him!
I know. And Fizz understands this. She says to Tyrone, I know how Phil must feel, but, you know, it's for the best that the truth is out. And I think it's just a scene where Jenny's there kind of making some comments about, we must feel really, really bad at the moment.
I love that, when she said, you must feel really guilty.
Yeah, that's right. That's what she said, wasn't it?
It's kind of awkward. Because they're sitting there with champagne, aren't they?
Yeah.
And she's like, you must feel really bad about yourselves. And they're like, I guess we should do
But she also said it's good that the truth is out. Anyway, she's like, so kind of there lamenting the fact that she's Phil's wife for the next 12 months now. They can't, if he's not going to sign these annulment papers, and there's nothing that she can do about it. But then she gets a text from Phil saying that he will sort the annulment. And we have a little scene with Ruby and Hope later on. And oh my gosh, not the best performance from everybody in that room there. and they're saying goodbye to him, and Hope says, "Oh, sorry about trying to muck things up for the wedding and everything." And she also kind of innocently drops into the conversation that Phil came round to see Tyrone straight after the wedding. And this is news to Phil, because although he knows that the pair of them are back together, he was under the impression that they only just, in the last few days, decided to reunite. So he comes storming into the Rovers at the end of the episode. Well, no, he's not mad at first, is he? He's quite cocky and theatrical. He's like saying, "I have here the papers, and have you got a pen, landlady?" And he's making it out like, there's something that's not quite right here, and he takes the pen from Jenny and plops it down into the Prosecco bottle before ripping up the papers. And I think you were saying when we were watching the scene, "Rip them up, Phil, throw them at them." And he did. He kind of launches them into the air, and he says, "I know exactly what you did out on our wedding night, and who with." And she tells Tyrone that he then tells Tyrone that he's going to be naming him in his divorce papers as the one that Fizz committed adultery with. He's like, "But don't worry, guys, nothing's going to happen for 12 months, 12 long months." And Fizz and Tyrone are left there with kind of egg on their faces, going, "Aww."
It was so satisfying. I want this story just to end there. I don't need to see any more, because you know that Phil is going to be punished for being mean.
I don't know whether he will. I think
but eventually the tide will turn and people will start feeling sympathetic, because I'm sure Phil's quest for revenge is going to become even more unhinged, and he's going to step over the line, and then people are going to start saying, "Oh well, I feel really sorry for them now." No.
I do think that at the end of the day, Coronation Street
is
is going to want us to be siding with Fizz and Tyrone. I'm already there. Even though I am completely against infidelity, I think that what Fizz did to Phil was exceptionally cruel. Even though I very much enjoy Phil as a character, there's many, many reasons why I shouldn't be on their side, but I'm just clinging on to the fact that this is a long-term...
You're just getting what you want, that's what it is. You're one of these horrible people that doesn't care what the method is, and you get what you want out of it.
I just really like them as a couple, and they're very traditional, and I think like Imran and Toya, they're kind of a couple that you kind of sympathise with a little bit more and identify with. But I like the family unit at number 9, but I don't know what Curry wants. It feels like they want us to be siding with them because they're the main characters, they're the heroes. But a bit like with the Toya and Imran thing, where it was supposed to be a little bit more, do we side with them two or do we side with Abby? But it ended up just making Toya and Imran looking awful. I think that's the same thing is happening with Fizz here, and I think we're supposed to be like torn a little bit, but it's making Tyrone and Fizz look a lot worse, which is good for you. So do you think that Phil is going to be? Do you think they are going to be dragging this on for a year, or will?
I hope so. I want him to torment them.
I kind of do as well, because there has been before this story came last year, it had been a very long period of time without any major stories for the Dobbs Stapes, or now it's the Whittaker Stapes, I suppose. Dobbs Whittakers. So I don't mind too much, but the prospect of 12 long months of him
good
like that, I think that's longer than it needs to be. So it could go quiet.
No. It's not like, obviously I understand, and I've said this before on the podcast, there are situations where in a relationship you may well feel like this is the end of it and we can't be together anymore because I've changed, my feelings have changed, or maybe there might be somebody else, but sneaking around behind somebody else's back, I don't see how that's ever justified. And also the thing that winds me up about this is that Fizz knows what Tyrone is like. And he only seemed to be interested in her once Alina's gone. And Alina's going to come back.
I know. This is not a spoiler. It just feels the most inevitable thing ever. And that's what I've seen lots of people on the forums and on the social media and everything have been saying. Are just waiting for Alina to pop back onto the show, baby in tow, just to ruin things for everything. Maybe that's how it will go. And Corrie do want Tyrone and Fizz to be ultimately split up, and it's going to be Alina returning with baby Ty that's going to be the last straw.
I just think that he betrayed Tyrone and Fizz. Tyrone betrayed Fizz so badly, and now they're doing the same thing to somebody else. It's just not right. And also, in my mind, right, the way that I would be satisfied with this ending, and it would be a bit creepy because there's too much of an age difference in my opinion. But if Alina came back with a baby, with Tyrone's baby, and she and Phil fell in love with each other, and then Tyrone, then they
We've seen
moved
that
in.
she likes the older man.
Well, he might be interested in Alina as a person. Maybe Mimi would come in and be like, "Oh, our family's from Eastern Europe. In fact, I am the Countess of whatever country you're from." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they fall in love, and then he raises Tyrone's baby with morals, which is not what Tyrone would do. Just saying.
But can you imagine Alina trying to make Phil squeeze into his tight clothes and go out night clubbing and everything?
He'd do it, wouldn't he? But because they're both cheesy. Alina's cheesy, and so is Phil. But that's why he keeps doing these big romantic gestures from TV shows. You imagine Alina sitting there enthralled as like, what's another romantic scene? I don't know. Maybe Phil reenacts The Bodyguard or something for her, and she's like, "I don't know what this reference is to, but it's absolutely so amazing, and I love you." They would have so much fun together.
That would be quite funny.
She doesn't have any cringe in her, does she? She doesn't understand what the word cringe means. And that's all Phil is. He's a ball of cringe with a giant house.
But he is mostly. But it was nice to see him, like I said earlier, kind of growing a pair.
I've just had this amazing vision of, because this house that Phil's got is quite grand, but we haven't really seen inside of it. Right. Imagine if it had one of these really gorgeous big staircases, and then Phil, extends the olive branch to. This is the other thing. If Alina and Phil get together with Tyrone's baby, then they always have the potential to be in it as long as Tyrone's in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he extends the olive branch and invites Tyrone over to spend time with the baby. And as he walks into the foyer of this gorgeous, massive house, there's a full length, like double the usual height of the ceiling, portrait of Alina and Phil just there in a gilded frame. Wouldn't that be brilliant?
Yeah. Make it happen, Corey.
Come on, use the budget. Just ask Will Roach if they can borrow his portrait and put and Photoshop
somebody else into it instead.
Why not?
Right, Gemma, I'm going to pass you over to the next story. So the Last Chance Salon. What's been going on with Audrey this week?
Well, she's got a birthday coming up, hasn't she? So
yes.
They decide. David tells Gail, "I've got a surprise for Audrey's birthday, but don't tell Shona because she'll blab." So in the pub, Gail tells Audrey that she wants to put everything behind them and she's booked a table for their birthday. How surprising. And Audrey is not in the mood to celebrate, she says. So Gail reports back to David that Audrey doesn't want to come to this party. I don't know why she would. What's the difference between this party and the party they had last week and the one they had the week before that? So he says, we need to share how sorry I am. But I reckon that it's going to work because this surprise I've got is just going to be so epic she won't be able to help herself. So David comes crawling to Audrey in the cafe and he's like, "Oh, can I help you? How are your eyes?" and sucking up to her. And she says, "If you really want to help me, come put some light fittings up because I've got a load of lamps and I haven't put them up or something." Yeah. He's like, "Look, maybe I'll do it another day." She's like, "Fine, no. Get lost then if you're not going to help me." I don't remember that. I kind of remember the scene, but I don't remember that happening. Over at number 8, Gail tries to appeal to Audrey's forgiving side and tells her that David and Sarah have a surprise, and Audrey's like, not bothered really. David gets home and she is not impressed.
Gail isn't.
With, I don't know what this means.
Well, no, David's saying, "Nah, that's fine. I'll do your light fittings another day." Gail's like, "David, you're trying to get an olive branch with your nan, and you just blew your chance."
But she says, Audrey has agreed to come to this thing tomorrow, so you and Sarah need to be on your best behaviour.
Yes.
Friday, David and Shona and Sarah Louise are planning for this birthday surprise. They're putting balloons up. Shona's still trying to guess what the surprise is. And Audrey arrives and everyone's like, "Hooray, it's Audrey! Yay!" I don't know why she's mad about that because this is what her life's been leading up to. She's always wanted people to applause when she enters the room and now she's finally got what she wants.
Yeah, this was in the bistro at this point, wasn't it?
The family say, they're all having lunch and Audrey's really quiet and everybody remarks about this and she says, I'm fine. And Nick says, "It's nearly time for your surprise. You're going to love it." So they take her into the surprise. They've blindfolded her and they take her into the salon.
Padam, salon.
It's all done up, all different inside. It looks the same really to me, but it's different. And Audrey says, thank you very much for this nice gesture. And Gail says, let's go back to the bistro for pudding. And she says, no, actually, I'm tired. And she closes the door behind her and sighs. So everybody goes back to the bistro without Audrey to eat cake. And Gail's worried because Audrey's...
Very dry looking cake, wasn't it? Do you remember? They had that scene that had the cake in the foreground and it didn't look the best cake.
It was very... No, it looked nice, but it maybe looked only nice and not tasty.
Yes.
But it's very nicely decorated, and really it's just a cake for TV, so... she goes to Grasmere Drive to see if Audrey's okay. And she comes home and Audrey's not there. And she's like, I don't understand where's she gone? So she tries ringing again, and this time Audrey picks up the phone and says, I'm at home, I don't know what do you mean? Or maybe I was out, I was getting some milk, and I'm tired. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And then we cut to Audrey, and where is she? She's looking very sorry for herself, and she's in hospital, in a hospital bed. So she hangs up, and then we get a nurse or a doctor talking to Audrey and saying, you're not going home. You need to talk to a psychiatric liaison officer who's going to come and talk to you tomorrow. And she's like, I don't need it. I just had one too many. I had an accident. And you're like, I don't know about everyone else, but I was thinking, she's had a car crash again. She's hit a lamppost or something.
Yeah, this was
like
a very well done scene because
really
you're led to believe that she's just got herself drunk again. That one too many comment was...
Or like fell over or something like that. And they're going, right, who's your next of kin? She says, I don't have a next of kin actually. And even if I did, I wouldn't bother them with this because it's just a mistake and nobody needs to know about it. And the nurse is like, well, this toxicology report does not look like it was a mistake to me at all because you took a large number of sleeping pills and it looks deliberate. Now, this was a really horrible...
That was the scene that I slept through.
I know, but this was a really horrible thing to leave everybody with over the weekend.
I know, poor
because
Audrey.
Audrey is such a beloved character, and all the way through the show, since the very beginning, she's always been flighty and a fun-loving kind of person who doesn't really seem serious. Like, she's not a very... She doesn't strike me as a deep thinker. She doesn't strike me as somebody who's prone to melancholy. But over the past year or so, she really has got incredibly, depressed and insular. And to think that she is so sad that she tried to kill herself is...
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like the Aidan situation, isn't it?
Tragic.
The clues have been there a little bit, but I think this particular scene here really did surprise a lot of viewers. I certainly did not see this coming.
It was really sad. Now, it was
really
interesting
sad.
that they
So well done.
decided to say that she took sleeping pills because they don't normally advise not to disclose methods for suicide, but maybe because it wasn't successful, they thought that they could do it. I don't really know. But I was talking to you, wasn't I, about the taboo of discussing suicide, and the guidelines on it now generally are just don't talk about it in the media or don't disclose methods and things. And I don't know whether that... I don't know. Obviously, they've done research and things, but sometimes I feel as though when you don't talk about things like this in depth, it can feel a bit mysterious and a bit like you just magically disappear from the earth. And to some people who have suicidal tendencies, that seems very appealing actually. But the reality of it is that it can be very, painful, and it's just horrible to think that people watching this might also feel the same way as Audrey. And I hope that if they are watching it, the way that Coronation Street has told this story makes them think, maybe I need to help, maybe I need some help, rather than... It just really makes me sad because I know that people feel this way.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to how it goes next week because so far the story has been fairly light, hasn't it? It's been, Audrey gets, Audrey's got a motorbike falling over, isn't that funny? And Steve coming around
and it just goes to show you,
no, it's not.
When she's just banging on about Stephen all the time and talking about how much she loves Stephen and how great Stephen's great and stuff, I kind of got a bit fed up with her a little bit because I was thinking, Stephen's not been there for you, everyone else has been there for you, why are you so obsessed with Stephen? But now I'm thinking, if that's the only thing that was stopping her from doing this... how sad she must be. And it really also struck me too, how this is such a familiar sight for the Platts to do something awful to Audrey and then placate her, and she's not really having it, and they kind of just sort of take her for granted.
Yeah, they do. They think, oh, it's just grand.
Yeah, and this is like...
To butter her up again.
It wasn't even really... you can't say it was a cry for help, because it seems quite likely that she may have succeeded. I don't know how she didn't. We don't know what the circumstances were or how...
No, exactly. Like that was part of the way they did it. It was really clever, because that when they just cut to her being in the hospital, obviously a lot of something has happened between now and then. Like, yeah, who discovered her? How did it happen? You know, it just there's no idea. So
because she seems to be claiming, I got drunk and I forgot how many pills I took.
Yeah.
So I don't know how she got found, and she doesn't want her family to know. And I that's so sad as well, because she doesn't trust them, and she doesn't want to be seen as a weak old lady, you know, weak sad old lady, and that kind of feels quite. Yeah. I feel very sympathetic to that kind of feeling of not wanting to be a burden to people, and and feeling also like they wouldn't. Maybe she thinks they wouldn't care. I don't know.
Do you think that she might have had a change of heart partway through and like phoned herself an ambulance, because she lives alone on her own in Grasmere Drive, and we don't know anything about her neighbours? I mean, I think it was, if I could say anything, it was probably that. And
I don't know.
And next week we'll kind of go.
Maybe we'll find
investigating into this. Yeah, but yeah, very very well done. That scene where they cut to her in hospital. And they kind of just have a slow zoom in on her, or is it zoom out? I can't remember. Just to let it, they let it sit with you for a bit. It was just fantastic. You mentioned Stephen earlier, and we were when he kind of promptly disappeared. Was it last week? We thought, oh, that was a very abrupt end for Stephen and a very short comeback. So do you imagine that this is going to be enough to bring him back to Weatherfield?
Yeah, and it'll be like, why did you let my mum nearly kill herself? You're all horrible people. I'm going to take her to Canada with me.
Also, hey Elaine, we had unresolved business.
Hey Elaine, would you like a new mother-in-law?
The fact that there was something that was beginning to develop there between Stephen and Elaine makes me think that he almost certainly will come back for this. Because what was the point of that otherwise? So looking forward to that. The salon then, Gemma. You weren't too impressed with the redesign?
I can't tell that it's different, but obviously you must be. It's just
the problem is it's been so long since it's been on screen last. I'm struggling to remember exactly what it used to look like, but it's got like lots of it's kind of silver and gold motif now, hasn't it? And I don't think it was like that before.
I thought it had swirly wallpaper.
Well, it's got swirly wallpaper now. Did it have swirly wallpaper before?
That's what I mean.
I'm not sure, but it definitely looks different. But everything is in the same place.
It used to be green.
Oh yeah, we're just having comparing.
Where do I see the swirly stuff then?
I don't know. Maybe you're looking at a screenshot of this actual thing. Yeah, so it's gone from green to swirly. I think it looks very modern and swish. I like it.
It's got like a kitchen area as well, doesn't it? I think.
I can't remember. I don't remember at all now. But I guess we'll see more of it soon. But it is nice to have the salon back again. Although it is kind of making me think. Well, partly, is Audrey actually capable, you know, she's what, 82 now? Is she capable of running a salon, running a business at her age?
Well, I don't know, but I don't think she should be forced into it.
No, well, she didn't seem super impressed by it, did she? So I don't know whether she's going to carry on working there or not. And also... it also brings up the problem of we now have got two hair places on the street again, because before when we had this and a trim up north, it did feel like it was a bit too much. And I know they've got slightly different clientele and everything, but yeah, I don't think we need to. But they wouldn't have done it up if they weren't going to use it, you know? I think, and we haven't seen pictures of this in the show yet, but I don't think it's a spoiler to say that they have also done up the outside again, haven't they? And I guess we'll get to see that on the show next week, because obviously I was looking at Googling pictures for salon redesign, and then they showed the outside of it. So they've put a lot of effort into it. I don't know. I guess we will see. But I suppose for the time being, Audrey will not be working there because she's got a few issues that she'll be working her way through. What with all the sleeping pills and everything. But I don't know how long the story's going to go on for. It seems like it was almost over, and now it could have a lot more to come. That's about it. And anything else to add for this one, Gemma?
No.
I didn't think you would. The fact that you quieted yourself up means that we're done with this story. So let's move on to the next storyline, which is our Electrocute Ed story. Did I have that in my list of stories at the beginning? No, I didn't. I forgot to write that we were going to talk about Electrocute Ed. So what has happened with this one this week starts off with all the Baileys being at the hospital. Ed's there with like bandages over his hands and everything. Michael's clowning around a bit. James is there. I don't know whether James actually got any lines this week, did he?
I didn't even see.
He was definitely there. The lesser spotted James, who somebody I saw on social media or a forum this week had said that this was now his 7th appearance in 2022. They really don't know what to do with James at the moment. But anyway, they're all there. Aggie is absolutely determined that she's going to get some compensation from Debbie for this, that she's put her husband through with her dodgy electrics and no insurance and whatever. Meanwhile, Debbie's desperately rifling through all her paperwork at the bistro. Ronnie's trying to reassure her and says, look, Ed, he's an easygoing kind of guy. He's not gonna, be bleeding you dry or anything. Don't worry about it. You just got to appeal to their forgiving side. So he brings Debbie around to see Ed in hospital, and Debbie's being like overly chirpy about the whole thing and saying, oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm sorry about everything that's happened. You're all right, aren't you? And Ed's like, yeah, I'm fine. But Aggie pulls absolutely no punches about how much he's suffering here. And Aggie says, and Debbie says, look, I've been talking to people and I've drawn up a little financial package that I could give you. I'll give you a check. And Aggie says, no way. I don't know whether we see at the time how much the cheque was for, but Aggie says this is no way near enough. Ed could have been killed here. He's going to be off work for weeks. I spit at your offer of little financial package. And she says, also, I've already spoken to Adam about compensation, and he reckons that we have got a cast iron case against you here, so stuff that, Debbie. Back at the bistro, Debbie is not giving up, though. Ronnie says, look, I'm going to go back. I'm going to try and convince Aggie on my own to change her mind. We're family and everything. Surely she's not going to really going to want to see me having to go through this with my partner. Debbie's later on with her lawyer, and he says, it doesn't look like you got many options here. What about if you sell this place, though, selling the bistro? And Aggie's like, and Debbie's like, no way, I'm not doing that. Or is it the hotel? I can't remember wherever it was they were. And he says, well, you could declare yourself bankrupt. Aggie tells Ronnie, meanwhile, that she is open to offers if the price is right. And Ed says, look, I'm going to get back on my feet soon. Want to get building again. Aggie says, can't believe it, you need to rest. Back at the bistro at the end of the episode, Rodney returns. Debbie is pretty relieved to hear that they are open to offers. Also, good news. He is now the owner of a derelict money pit. So this was the pub thing that he's going to be buying,
and he's going to build a million houses on the top.
Yes,
that's what we all want.
Exactly,
we want to live in a million houses on a pub.
Yes. Wednesday's episode, Ed's made it to the Rovers for a drink. He's out of hospital now. He's made another classic Coronation Street miraculous quick recovery. Debbie comes in to check he's okay, and Aggie says, look, I'm not interested in anything you've got to say, lady, apart from if you're going to give me a load of money. And Debbie says, look, it's all being sorted. Don't worry about it. And she's on the phone later to her lawyer again, I guess it was, sounding incredibly desperate. What about this personal loan that you were on about, she says. Apparently that's no longer viable. But she is absolutely insistent that she is not declaring bankruptcy here. She needs another option. So she goes over to number 3 later on and offers them £30,000, but there is a catch. They just can't have it all at once. What with COVID and everything, it's hit the hospitality industry really bad over the past few years. And Aggie's like, no, not a new sob story. If you don't give me this money in a fortnight, then sorry, I'm not having it. So you've got 2 weeks.
Ask Gary, because Gary can come up with 24 grand in a day.
I know.
Maybe 30 grand.
She could haggle down from 30 grand to 24, couldn't she?
She should have followed. She should have followed Gary to the murder hut under the pretense of helping him rescue Kelly, and just sort of go, I'll just take this, I'll look after this bag of money for you.
I don't know what happened to the bag in the end.
Has
Kieran still got it?
Why would you leave the money there? You've got a tracker on it, Michael.
I don't know, you're the sort of person that just leaves a mobile phone lying around. You might be leaving a bag full of £24,000 around. Who knows? Anyway, there's a little scene at the end of the episode where Debbie's kind of lamenting her relationships in the past and how she never got around to having kids and everything. She was always too busy. That doesn't particularly lead into anything, but I thought it was quite a nice little little nice character scene for her, between her and Ronnie, and that's where we're left it. How are you feeling about Debbie and Ronnie? Because they've been going out for like a year now, haven't they? And
really? I just don't.
yeah.
I just don't
we've
really
not
buy
seen
them as a
anything with
couple.
them as a couple.
No, I forget that they're there.
Yeah, I don't think we've really ever seen anything that's been super romantic between them. But this is probably, this little storyline that they're going through at the moment is the most we've seen them together as a couple. I don't not buy them, but I still need to see a little bit more of the romance side before I get completely convinced, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I agree with you.
What do you think about Aggie and her not accepting Debbie's offer? Do you think that she's been a bit cowy about it?
I just didn't think that. I mean, I don't know. Just like, how much money do you earn in a year? That 30 grand's not enough when I don't suppose that you're going to be working. It's not going to be not working for a year.
No. I know.
30 grand is like a very, very good amount of money for a year.
It feels like that maybe the writers have made her be a little bit contrary just for the drama of, oh, it's my brother-in-law's girlfriend that...
But you don't need... The thing is, like, it's not like he's earning so much money that she needs 30 grand in 2 weeks to cover his expenses.
No, she's just kind of hardballing her, isn't she? And...
I understand that she like doesn't... Like, Debbie should cough up, I get. I don't really understand this.
She kind of should. I mean, she should have been insured, but she wasn't. And I think if something like that happened to you, I'd probably be, quite insistent that there was some kind of compensation.
Well,
it feels like...
but it seems like Ed will be fine eventually. If that was different, then I don't know.
Yeah.
My opinion might change, but in this country, you don't have to pay for healthcare. So that's not a consideration. He's self-employed, so he's not having his what's it called?
Don't know.
Time off paid by anybody. Yeah. So that's important to think about. But also, doesn't he have his own insurance? I would think if I was a builder, I would have some kind of insurance to cover if I had an accident. But I don't know how these things work.
I don't know how these things work.
Can you buy that if you're a builder, or does it always come under... the person who employs you is supposed to have insurance if they're a business. Yeah.
I think if it... I don't know. I think if it was...
Not that it makes any difference.
If it was in the family, you probably should just get enough compensation to cover it without trying to screw over the person.
It's not in the family, though. It's your husband's brother's girlfriend. This is the thing, it always goes two ways, isn't it? Like, if somebody owns a business, if you have a friend who has a business... Do you expect them to give you stuff for free, or do you say, because you're my friend or my relative, I'm going to pay more to support you?
I mean, what I assumed that this was leading towards this week is that Debbie is going to sell the salon to David or to Audrey or whatever. But I think they just said that they're renting or leasing it or whatever off of her, didn't they? But if Debbie wants to get hold of a lot of money quick, then surely trying to convince David or Audrey or whatever to cough up so that the salon is completely theirs again would be a nice, quick and easy way of getting it. Don't you think? So I think that I imagine that's probably what's going to happen. And I don't know, maybe I'm not thinking enough about it. Okay, back to you, Gemma. Wendy, we had a return for Wendy Crozier and Abby this week with a couple of scenes. What happened? Explain.
On Monday, Wendy and Abby are in speed dial talking about Wendy coming to see her in Coronation Street every now and then. And Wendy says, actually, you know what, the reason I've been a bit weird about it is because I had an affair with Ken Barlow. And also, in 2012, I had a reunion with him and I tried to get between him and Deirdre. And I was like, don't worry about that, Deirdre's dead. I thought this was weird.
She says it a little bit more sensitive.
I thought this was really weird. Why does Abby know who Deirdre is and that she's dead? This doesn't make any sense.
She's a legend. Abby came into the show a year or two after Deirdre died.
How does Abby know Ken?
Just everybody knows everyone, don't they?
They don't. That I thought was a bit silly. Abby runs into Tracy in the street. I mean, I guess, is Tracy her friend? She would know that her friend's mum is dead.
Yeah.
But I don't really...
It didn't bother me, but I know
it bothered me.
You noticed it,
She seems to know more about this than She's obviously been on Choropedia. Abby runs into Tracy on the street and says, and Tracy's like, oh, where's that Rottweiler, Wendy? Sorry about the time I was mean about it. And Abby says, let's go to Roy's to chat so that Wendy can sneak over to see Ken without Tracy intercepting her. So she goes down to number 1 and Ken's surprised to see her and she says, look, I'm really sorry about everything. Can I please talk to you? So she goes into the house and she says, I don't recognise the person I was 10 years ago and now Deirdre's gone and I can't say how sorry I am to her. And Ken's like, well, guess what? Doesn't matter because Deirdre never doubted how much I loved her. You didn't achieve anything. So Tracy and Abby go back and see Wendy coming out of the house and Tracy's immediately mad at Abby, calling her a traitor, and she calls Wendy a trollop. And then Ken says, back down. Wendy just wanted to apologise. He says, thank you, Wendy. I don't think we're ever going to talk to each other again. So Tracy goes inside. She tries to go inside, number 1, but Ken doesn't want to see her either. But she goes around later when he's cooled down and he says he's a bit sad, it's going to pass. And then he gets some letters out that Deirdre had written. And he misses her and he talks about how wonderful that they had each other and he wishes they could have her back. And Tracy says, yeah, Wendy can stick that in her pipe and smoke it. I thought this was a really nice scene.
It was, yeah.
It's nice to know that Ken hasn't forgotten Deirdre.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, and the dresser is full of pictures of Deirdre, isn't it? And it was around about this time of the year that Deirdre died as well, I think.
It was also sad though to hear that he's still sad about it, I guess.
Yeah. He's not got over her, despite that little
it's that
little thing with Claudia that lasted a short amount of time.
I'm sure
Deirdre's still the one for him.
People who have had partners who have died and have moved on will say that they never forget or stop loving their partners.
Yeah, no, it was a nice little scene.
So Tracy back at the Wendy house. Abby is hearing about how Wendy feels like a weight's been lifted now. She sorted things out with Ken, but she still looks a bit wistful. Then on Friday, Kevin's getting ready because Abby's coming back. He's preparing the house and Jack's packing his bag for the primary school leaving do.
Yeah, I wrote in the notes here that it's he looks like he's more like he's leaving school or secondary school rather than leaving primary school because he's so massive. And then I saw loads of other people made the same comment online as well. It is a bit of a joke of how not like an 11-year-old boy he is.
Kevin's cranky at work later and Aaron, who's still on his trial period, gets between him and Tyrone. And Tyrone says Kevin should have the afternoon off. That was weird. Abby comes home and everybody's really happy until Jack has a go at Kevin for not helping him with his levers project thing. He's got to give in this afternoon for some reason.
This is ridiculous. This is the last day of term.
Nobody cares about anything on the last day of term.
No teacher cares about being given a project on the last day of term, surely. Last day of term is for getting in, maybe having a little assembly, watching a film, and that's about all anybody can manage. Like, if it's his last day at this school ever and he doesn't bring in his project, so what? I mean, I suppose what it was supposed to be implying was that there was some kind of presentation or assembly or event or something and he was supposed to be standing up and saying something about it. But I don't know, it felt like maybe whatever he was writing, the teacher should have got him to write it at school, because I don't think that with 1 week left to go, any year sixes are in the mood for doing homework with their teachers. But anyway, I assume everything turns out okay with that because we don't hear otherwise.
Well, it's like it's just a demonstration of like the fact that Kevin has to remember that he's got to balance his existing son with this new child who's going to be sharing his life with him. And he's not done a very good job right off the bat.
Well, I mean, he's not been living with Abby for ages, and they had a very nice reunion and a cuddle and everything. So
I'm just saying what the show's trying to say.
Well, yeah, exactly. And Kevin's there saying, "Oh, Jack, you need to take responsibility to yourself," and he kind of does, because if he's going to secondary school in September, he's going to be drowning in homework.
Yeah, he can't manage one piece. Help. And what's this levers project going to be? It's probably going to be like a bit of paper. It says what he wants to do at the new school.
What do I want to be when I grow up? Well, either a mechanic or packing in the factory, or maybe I might want to be a florist, or maybe what?
One-legged mechanic. One-legged factory hacker.
I'm going to be the Rover's first one-legged landlord when I'm older.
He can be Weatherfield's first one-legged anything.
He could, couldn't he? Yeah.
And he's
not
a trailblazer.
first one-legged taxi driver though, because Don
true.
Brennan's got that one already.
That's true. Yep. Really, he should be looking to him for inspiration.
Yeah.
He's a role model to Jack. Watch out, everybody. So, Jack's kicking the football against the wall. Then he kicks it over to number 9. It smashes something, and he goes in to collect it from Evelyn, and she goes off and leaves him and Ruby together. And he says, Evelyn was almost my nana once, and then goes.
Yeah, that was kind of left strange. And this was about, 10 minutes maybe before the end of the episode on Friday, that he's dropped this bomb on Ruby.
Who cares?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think about what the purpose of that was, because I thought it would be followed up in that episode, but it wasn't.
But doesn't everybody know this now?
I guess that Ruby didn't realise that Jack
was she surprised, or was she like, yeah, I know, because...
Well, yeah, no. She said, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, nothing. So Ruby now knows more of the family secrets that she's ready to drop on them at some point, I guess.
Maybe she is going to... Phil's going to hang around, start writing his revenge book. Revenge would be a good name for a book like that. And he could then get this goss off of Ruby about the whole mess. Maybe he can just write a book about Weatherfield and how everybody that lives there is like some kind of weird, horrible affair monster, and how they're all related to each other, and everyone's kids, everyone else is half brother and sister.
Yeah, that'd fill a few pages, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Anything to talk about? It was nice to have Wendy going around to number 1 again. I thought that was quite a cool callback scene for the long-time Corrie fans. It felt like it was maybe over at the end of it, but with her looking a bit wistful, I guess it's not. And also, if this is over, then I don't think it was really necessary, because
nobody wanted closure for Wendy Crozier.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I don't care
Should
what
be called Wendy Closure.
Yeah,
Closure.
Nobody cares about what kind of horrible nightmare regrets that Wendy had been living with for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
No one was thinking about Wendy until she came back.
No, which means there must be more to it than this.
She wasn't a massive figure. She wasn't the sort of character that inspired our sympathy to begin with.
No.
So what was the point? There must be more to it, as you said.
Yeah, is she going to give it another crack now that she's just tested the waters a bit, and Ken's not completely repulsed by her?
It's totally over me. What's that about? I'm Wendy Flaming Crozier. I'm like the catch of Weatherfield.
Yeah. She's still got it, hasn't she?
She's got a bigger house than he has.
Yeah.
Maybe she might be able to tempt him over.
Maybe that's what she's going to try. Yeah, because being in the Baptist for this is not
combine their fortunes and buy a massive old people's mansion with because old people, you've got to be very careful with stairs, don't you? That's what happened to Ivana Trump. She fell down the stairs and died.
Yeah, sad.
So if I was them, I would club together, buy a mansion, and there would be no stairs. There would only be slides.
A bungalow mansion. I know with slides.
Yeah, slides.
Yeah. One thing
I don't know how you get up to the next level. Maybe you crawl up the slide.
Down the stair lift.
Seems very safe.
One thing that I thought about this story is people are always complaining that Coronation Street relies on people walking into other people doing things and overhearing conversations and everything. And we had that exact thing here when, just as Wendy was leaving the number 1 the other day, that happens to coincide precisely with when Abby and Tracy were walking around the corner, and oh, what a surprise, they've seen each other. I think this would have been a perfect opportunity to have got the doorbell in as a story, because I don't know if it's anything, if what Tracy and Steve has got is anything like our Ring doorbell, but whenever somebody comes to our house now, we get a little notification, don't we? And a little screenshot pops up of here's somebody at your door. So rather than using the tried and tested route of walking around the corner and they happen to be there at the same time, it would have been an awful lot better, and just, for variety's sake, if Tracy had got a little notification on her phone with a picture of Wendy Crozier. Or if Steve maybe had been scrolling through. I can imagine Steve being the sort of person at the end of every night, just for larks, goes through all the videos that his doorbell has taken on the day.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, I used to when we first got it.
You spy on me.
I used to. I always see, if I'm at school, if the doorbell rings, I always have a look and see, it's Gemma or it's the postman or whatever. But I can, when we first got it, I was always looking to see the videos throughout the day. And Steve seems like he's got nothing better going on in his life at the moment than to do that. So that's how I think it should have been revealed that Wendy was
That would have
there.
been a better idea.
Although, if indeed this isn't it for Wendy Crozier, and if she is going to be sneaking around number one again for secret liaisons with Ken, maybe that will get picked up on that, because it seems like really obvious, and I don't really get the point of this Steve having a doorbell apart from who was it that he spied on? Was it Sally or Gail or something a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
It was Gail, wasn't it, going around there,
I think that maybe there is going to be a big plot reason and they're not using it for that, to save it up, otherwise it'll be by the time they get to it played out. But maybe.
Yeah, maybe. There's my prediction. Wendy's going to be spied on the doorbell camera, I reckon.
Tully and the Bully.
Tully and the Bully. Is this me or is this you?
You do this one.
Was I? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the end of Frank this week. And to be frank, it felt like it was happened a little bit too quickly for my taste. But anyway, Frank on Monday is getting introduced to Dylan, and I thought that he was doing a fairly decent job about asking him about himself and everything, and trying to be a bit cool, but also clearly being a little bit awkward and not being really knowing how to talk to kids Dylan's age. He's clearly not very comfortable about this, but everyone else who I saw who's seen it that I've seen has said that he was absolutely awful. But anyway,
well, I just want to defend him a little bit here because Frank.
Yeah.
Frank has been. I don't want to make assumptions about people's lives, but I imagine that quite a lot of gay men Frank's age sort of don't really care or think about children, and have kind of like said, the children aren't going to be part of my life. So maybe they don't talk to them very much. I'm not a gay man. I wouldn't know how to talk to a kid. It's not. Some people act like it's the worst sin in the world that you don't know how to talk to children.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, for a gay man of his age, I don't find it exceptional that he doesn't really relate to children.
No. And the fact that he gave it a go, was like, all right, what football team you in today? That kind of thing.
He didn't know,
I thought he was fine.
What else do you bloody want from him? I tell you what, if he was too nice to him, everybody would be on Twitter calling him a paedophile.
Yeah, they would.
They would.
Anyway,
they would.
Dylan, which I found quite an interesting character trait, is really fascinated by the fact that they're living with an undertaker, and he wants a guided tour around it. And we haven't. I want a guided.
He wanted to see the bodies, but they wouldn't let him.
I want a guided tour around the Undertakers. I don't think we've seen inside the Undertakers at all this year. But, we've had the salon now. Maybe the Undertakers is next. Anyway, he had a lovely old time there. And then when he disappears off, Todd talks to Sean, I think it was, about how I'm a bit worried. It might have been George, I don't know. About how he's worried about Frank and how he and Dylan don't seem to be getting off on the best foot. Later on...
Maybe he just doesn't like kids and he doesn't want to talk to Dylan.
I know. Later...
Like when he met Sean as a single man who didn't have a kid. And now suddenly this kid's turned up.
Yeah, I know. I don't feel... At this stage, I'm not feeling bad for Frank. Oh, I'm feeling bad for him. I don't feel bad about Frank. So later on, Frank says that he and Sean should book a holiday together, and Sean's like, "Oh, what a great opportunity for you to bond with Dylan." And Frank's
I'd be like, I don't want to hang out.
No?
Like, I personally, if I was in this situation and I had if I was single, God forbid, and I was on the dating scene, God forbid, Michael, and I met a guy and he had kids, I'd be actually quite excited because I would like to, that would be nice for me. I'd enjoy trying to
bond with some kiddies.
Yeah, I would like that, but I don't think that it's weird that Frank has reservations, especially because he's suggesting a nice romantic holiday with his boyfriend, and then he's like, "Let's take our kid." No, I don't want to. No, I mean, I also don't want to pay for him.
Yeah, good point. I mean, Sean manages to go most of the year without ever seeing Dylan, so why don't they just wait until he's gone back to school again and go then when the holidays are cheaper anyway? And
also, knowing Sean, he probably hasn't even spoken about Dylan.
Yeah, probably. Probably doesn't bring him up.
I forgot he had a kid.
So he manages to talk Sean around into thinking that maybe they should go later when Dylan's gone home again.
Yeah. Also, don't go on holiday during the summer holidays.
No, exactly, that's what I said. So anyway, Sean tells George and Todd about this plan, and it seems to ring alarm bells with them a little bit, who think that Frank should be
he wants to go on holiday with his boyfriend.
Wednesday is where it all goes wrong for him, though. because Sean and Frank are due to go on a date, but sadly for Frank, Sean has to blow it off because he needs to take Dylan to the football.
Ugh.
And he invites... I love Sean going to football. He's like, oh, let's go be really manly and do chanting and stuff. He invites Frank along and he's like, yeah, fine, whatever. So they get back from the match later and Dylan's limping. He's been fouled. He was playing football, not watching it. But then left alone with Dylan, Frank unleashes this massive rant about how he needs to stop playing the victim. He needs to man up. He's like, if you were my son, I'd be ashamed of you. And I like that came out of absolutely nowhere, didn't it?
That was bizarre.
I don't know. It felt like it was really badly written because there were no clues that he was feeling this, you know.
To me, it feels like there should have been a bit more of a build-up of...
I'm a bit fed up of you,
Frank
Dylan.
being pushed out by Dylan because of Sean's obvious preference for his son, which is probably the only good thing about Sean, is that he is a kind of a good, attentive father in this situation, and he's putting Dylan before Frank, which is how it should be.
Yeah.
And there should have been more of that, and maybe Frank should have been drunk, because this is the sort of thing that you might say if you were,
This is the real problem that I had with this. Fine that it's happened eventually, but it really came out of nowhere. And the fact that he did it, loudly ranting at him in the middle of the street where Sean could possibly turn up any moment, and what do you know, he does.
But I also think that there are definitely ways to have said this in a sort of more manipulative, subtle way than just full on telling him that.
Well, yeah, he could have done evil whispers to him, and then Dylan would have told Sean, and Sean wouldn't have believed him. Then they make it last a bit longer.
Why is Frank so bothered as well? Like, I don't get why Frank is angry about this child being fouled.
Well, he's just saying. I think he's just saying, Sean's caring about his son now more. He should have been on a date with me.
But that's what I'm trying to say. There should have been more of that. Because if he's jealous, that's a good motivation. But he hasn't had enough chance, really, to have built up so much vitriol against this kid. Like, maybe, I don't know. I also think that Dylan's a bit too old to be spoken to like this.
Yeah, no, I agree. It didn't quite work. It was quite exciting, but it didn't quite work. Go on.
I just think that, I think that they could have written it in a different way so that Frank's defence was a bit more plausible.
Because he says, I'm just trying to prepare Dylan for the real world. And Sean says, well, sorry. And he's like, that's what you got to do for football. That's how you talk to your players. You need to toughen them up and everything. And Sean's like, you told him that you would be ashamed if he was your son. And Frank's like, I didn't mean that. Sorry, let's go and have lunch. And Sean's like, no, I've had to put up with years of this kind of abuse from other people, and I'm not going to subject my son to it. You're dumped. And Frank's seems quite surprised at how quick this has happened along. He's not mega heartbroken or anything, but he's caught off guard a bit.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. I don't think they went into it, and I can't remember what Sean's backstory is, but hearing somebody telling someone, if you or my son would be ashamed of you, might have triggered something that maybe happened to Sean when he came out.
I think, if I'm remembering rightly, and if I was one of those two lovely gents at Coropedia, I'd know exactly what this was. I think there was a story where Sean's dad was ashamed of him, but then it turned out that wasn't actually his dad, it was his stepdad or something. And then I can't remember whether we actually know his real dad or not. I've got a feeling we talked about this fairly recently, but I don't know. I can't remember from week to week what we say on this podcast. But yeah, you're right. I think it maybe would have...
Because then it would have... Honestly, I think that Sean's reaction was correct for how mad Frank got.
Was, yeah.
But only because it was completely unjustified. Like... there was a lot wrong with this.
There was. And they just kind of tied it all up neatly at the end as well. There was a bit of a Grimshaw debrief towards the end of the episode. All's well that ends well. Frank's a git. Glad he's gone. Anyway, that's Dylan's still here. End of the story.
Really can't be the end because it is not satisfying. The whole story was George was his nemesis because he was bullied as a child. You'd think that if anyone was going to sort of triumph over Frank and make sure everybody knew what he was really like.
Yeah, George wasn't even there.
It's not satisfying at all. Dylan wasn't in it. He's only just been reintroduced, and to have Dylan be the one who inadvertently reveals to everybody what Frank's really like, it's really deeply unsatisfying.
It is.
I don't think it's over.
But I mean, maybe for a lot of people it is satisfying because it has got to the end quickly, and lots of people don't like Sean or Sean's stories. But I like Sean, but I will readily admit that the last few Sean storylines we've had, like the pyramid scheme and the homeless story, didn't really go down so well. But actually, this one was turning into Sean's best story that he's had for a long time. All the characters that are involved in it I kind of like. Frank was an intriguing character. I've been a member of the Frank fan club for the past few weeks because he certainly pulled the wool over my eyes. I've been really enjoying this story, and it's been low key enough. It hasn't had all the high drama of kidnappings in cellars and people being electrocuted. It's just been a fairly standard soap relationship story, hasn't it? I've really enjoyed it.
I just thought it could have been, like maybe if Frank had said something like a triggering sort of thing, like maybe he said something like, "Oh, you don't want your dad to be ashamed of you" or something, and then maybe Sean would overhear it, and then Frank could have tried to spin it, and then maybe Dylan would have been rude to him, and that might have sort of set Frank off in some way. Say something like, "You're not going to let your son talk to me like that, are you?"
Yeah.
And it just felt like a really out of place and overblown, clumsy way of really getting to. Obviously, they wanted to get to that place, but I don't know why they chose that way.
This fast. Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I guess that with Dylan's still going to be here for the next 5-6 weeks or so. They've said that he's going to be there for the summer holidays. I don't know. I haven't looked at. I can't remember what the guy's called that plays Frank. I don't know whether he said, "Oh, that's me done on Coronation Street," but he was. I think he was a decent actor.
I just can't see it. I know.
It's sad if it's over. And Sean's single again.
As far as me saying, I don't feel this is a satisfying ending, so I don't think it's over. But I also can't see how it's going to go anywhere else, because if Frank kind of ingratiates himself back in with Sean somehow, it's going to make Sean look like a really bad dad. I don't think he is. No, I mean, he's a bit of a hands-off dad, but he's certainly very, very sweet with Dylan when he's there, and he cares a lot about him. Yeah. I can't see him sort of forgiving Frank for what he said.
I'm very intrigued to see if this does go anywhere else, but I've got a sad feeling that maybe it won't. But I don't know. I can never predict these things.
Also really liked Dylan calling George Mr. Shuttlecock.
That was really well delivered.
That was great.
I think that this is Liam McShane who plays Dylan's doing a really good job. He's not had loads of material to work with, but I've seen lots of other people online saying that he's actually a very decent young actor. And I agree, and there are lots of decent young actors on Coronation Street as well, so it's good that we've got another one to join the ranks. Let's see him get used over the next 6 weeks, because who knows by September if we'll ever see him again, or maybe that Angel of Death is honing in on Violet right now.
I thought you'd say Angel Delight. I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe she's got her. She's in the crosshairs.
Maybe I would not mind at all if Dylan stays. We'll see where it takes us. Gemma, we've got some incredibly slow, dragged out Dahl just to end this episode with. What's happened?
So do you think that's like thick Dahl instead of like quite a runny sort of soupy?
Yeah.
Tarka
this
Dahl
is a stodgy Dahl. This story.
This takes chewing.
Yeah.
So on Friday, Stu gets wistful about going to Athens when Zidane says he's going there, and Yasmin starts talking about Athens as well and says, "Oh, I'd love to go somewhere like that." And he says, "I went there with my daughter once." And Yasmin says, "You should talk to her. Family will always be family." And he says, "I don't want to. I don't want to talk about it." Later on, Zidane finds Yasmin doing some online detective work to try to track down his daughter.
And that's all that was this week.
This seems like a bad idea, doesn't it?
Tracking down his daughter online.
Especially as he keeps saying, "I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it." But if I was Yasmin, I'd say, in that case, don't. Like, stop dropping hints and being wistful and sad about it. Don't ever talk to me about her again if you don't want to talk about her, because you saying, oh, I'm so sad.
I think he does.
What?
But I think he must have some horrible history that he doesn't want revealing if
Well, don't talk about it
daughter
then.
comes on the scene. I'm torn about whether I want there to be lots
He
of this
obviously
story in a
does want to
week.
talk about it. He's just being a little hinter. That's what he's doing.
Little hinter.
He is.
I don't know whether I want there to be lots of this story in a week to get it over with, or to get onto something exciting, or whether I don't want them to have any of it, because putting 3 scenes in a week.
I feel like this is leading into
And
next week.
but I mean, I've thought that about this story before. There's been numerous weeks, it feels like, where there's been the odd speed dial scene. Just hurry up and get on with the story. Athens, I'm guessing that maybe I'm still thinking that there's going to be a romance between Stu and Yasmin, and maybe they'll go off on holiday to Athens somewhere.
Can we watch them?
Do you really fancy getting to see the Parthenon?
Coronation Street to go to Athens.
Oh yeah, of course, Coronation Street, absolutely. Get on with it.
Like, also, like, what's Athens? Who cares about Athens?
I like Stu.
Why are you talking about
I
Athens?
like Yasmin. Don't really like Sedan. This story is boring me to tears. Get on with it and have something exciting happen.
Also, when are you going to die of lung cancer, Stu? Like I was expecting you to.
Yes,
when you
his
first
cough's
go into
cleared
the
right
show.
up. Every time Stu appears on screen, we have to mention that cough. So, that was it for this week's Coronation Street. And I thought that was quite a decent week. As much as that the Speed Dial storyline was a bit of a downer, as I said, it was only 3 scenes, and that wasn't enough to detract from a decent week as a whole. The cellar storyline was pleasantly surprising to me. I thought it would be kind of, oh, poor Kelly, isn't Kelly... woe is her, but it was solved quite quickly. I thought that the stuff with the tracker, with Gary getting to rescue her, was very cleverly done. Exciting escape scene. The stuff with Tyrone and Fizz was kind of fun. The going back to the same marriage counsellor, as unlikely as it was a kind of funny way of him finding out. And even though I am a Tyrone and Fizz apologist, I did enjoy seeing him ripping up the annulment papers. Audrey, new salon, Wendy, Deirdre, exciting stuff for Frank, even if it was not badly handled. I'm going to give this one 4 Zs on the end of Fizz out of 5 this week.
Okay.
Decent week in my books.
Yeah, I reckon so. I'm really sad about Audrey.
Yeah, I am sad and concerned about her.
We haven't ever had somebody of that age sort of having that kind of depression and struggle, which is interesting to me.
No, I don't think we have.
I know that Albert Tatlock was always moaning about how sad he was, but I don't know if it's the same thing exactly.
What are you scoring at?
Four police frog people, which I think they could do with employing some frog people in the police. They could hop to it then.
What haven't we said? Character of the week.
Blokey.
Blokey was quite good, was Kieran?
Scary.
Phil. I thought you'd pick Phil.
Bloody Phil, brilliant. Well done. You go, Blake. I think I'm 100% on Phil's side. If you want me to go around meddling with Tyrone and Fizz and ruin their lives, let me know. I'll go through their stuff. I'll undermine their relationship.
I'm not gonna pick anyone from that story this week. As much as I did
I like
enjoy
low-level chaos for people that don't deserve that do deserve it.
As much as I enjoyed and found Tyrone with the tattoo thing, I found hilarious when he didn't realise you could remove tattoo. I don't know how you get to his age without realising.
Also, don't know how you get to the tattoo parlour to say I don't like this tattoo, and they not say if you don't want to cover it up.
Well, I guess maybe it must have been more. They've got more money by doing another tattoo.
Maybe it's not the same people.
Maybe it's not. I'm going to give this one to... I think Gary. Not that I'm necessarily a Gary fan particularly, but I think he was very resourceful with his tracking. I thought I enjoyed the escape scene. I was very happy with what went on with Gary this week. So well done. A character that I would never thought that I would normally pick gets a point from me. And that is it.